I have risen to the rank of additional DG, which means that promotional avenues for the cadre officers have enhanced. As we all know, there was a problem of militancy in Punjab, and I was assigned. And after this commando assignment, I was briefly with the SPG for 1 year or so. Came to Samba as this was the time when the Samba, the 200 kilometers of borders with Pakistan in Jammu area became extremely hot. Till then it was quiet. It became very hot because Pakistan decided to challenge the legality of this border.
So the next question is, what all things must an assistant commandant do right in order to reach the level of ADG as you did?
I can say that I have lived a whole life in my career.
Jai Hind, guys. This is Apoorv Mishra, as you already know, and today we have one of the most famous personalities of our CAPFs. I'm so much honored to have him here. I'm falling short of words, as you can see. He is an ex-ADG of BSF, Sanjiv Sood, sir. And it's true honor to host an ex-ADG, a 3-star rank officer on this interview. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Namaste.
And sir, we'll start with the questions. We have prepared some crowd-sourced question from the toppers of 2019 batch. So I'll straight away take the first question. So, sir, we want you to share your experiences as ADG, coming right up from assistant commandant, and also, if possible, sir, can you please explain your role step by step, how it changed from AC to DC to 2IC, then to commandant, DIG, IG, and then finally as ADG. So, how did it change with every promotion? Yeah.
Okay, not confining to BSF only, I'll in short brief about other CPOs also. Thereafter, we can proceed with my own experience. All right. You see, India has 5 major paramilitary forces, that is BSF, CRPF, ITBP, SSB, and CSF. And there is another one called Assam Rifles, which is mostly deployed in Manipur and Mizoram for guarding the Indo-Burma border. And if you consider Coast Guard as a paramilitary force, then you have Coast Guard guarding the coastal, ensuring the coastal security of our country. Insofar as these 5 organizations are concerned, to begin with, the CRPF is the oldest of our paramilitary organizations. It was raised as Crown Prince force before independence, and in 1949 it was converted to Central Reserve Police Force, and the group of ministers which was set up after the Kargil War designated CRPF as the sole force which was responsible to ensure internal security, assist the civil administration in internal security. The CSF was designated to guard the installations, important government installations, and about 10 years ago, it was also given the role of guarding important private installations on payment basis. So CRPF is an internal security organization. CSF is an organization for security of the VAs and VPs, as we call them, very important areas and very important points. So, and the other 3, BSF's ITBP and SSB, are the border guarding forces. ITBP was raised in 1962 after the Chinese War, and it is responsible to guard the Indo-Tibetan borders along what is now is autonomous Tibet Autonomous Region. BSF was raised in 1965 after the war with Pakistan, when it was found that the state armed police forces, which were responsible for guarding the borders of India with Pakistan, were not actually up to the responsibility because of several organizational constraints mainly, and also constraints of equipment and training. So BSF was raised in 1965 to guard Indo-Pak border, which got converted into Indo-Pak and Indo-Bangladesh border after the 1971 war, when Bangladesh got liberated. The third organization, SSB, whose full form is Sashastra Seema Bal, was raised in 2001, if I am correct. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 years, maybe 2002, yeah. So it was also consequent upon the group of ministers report when the earlier SSB, that is Special Service Bureau, which was raised after the 1962 war, whose responsibility was to train the civilian forces for uprising against the Chinese occupation, if at all it occurs. So this was converted into a uniform force in 2002, and it was made responsible to guard the Indo-Nepal and Indo-Bhutan border, which are open borders. So this is in brief about 5 paramilitary forces. Yeah, people have objections to use of this word paramilitary forces, because purists think that paramilitary should be commanded by the, or rather officered by the army officers. But I don't find this to be written anywhere that paramilitary ki definition yahi hai. So we are Central Armed Forces, and sometimes a decade ago, the name was changed to Central Armed Police Forces. Police not being central government, not being the subject in central list, cannot be, I mean, the center cannot raise police forces. So we are actually armed forces, but all the same, the government and other organizations keep referring to us as Central Armed Police Forces. So this is in general about the 5 forces that we have. The organization is almost the similar, except for CSF, which is unit-based, whose strength varies from place to place. So, for example, the unit at International Airport in Delhi may be very huge, and it may perhaps be commanded by a DIG or so. I'm not very sure. A unit at, say, Raipur Airport may be very small. It may perhaps be commanded by a deputy commandant only. But other forces have a set organization, which is a battalion. The battalion consisting of companies, 7 companies in case of BSF, 7 companies in case of CRPF. ITBP perhaps is still with the 6 companies. SSB perhaps is still with 6 companies, and support company. In case of BSF, we have a support company which is equipped with mortars and MMGs, and thereafter you have. I mean, this makes a battalion, which is an independent unit capable of functioning independently. 3 or 4 units come under a sector headquarter in case of BSF. In case of CRPF, it is perhaps called zonal headquarter or something. In case of, and then 3 or 4 sectors combined are commanded by a frontier in case of BSF, in case of ITBP. In case of CRPF, it is called a sector. And then we have respective theaters In case of BSF, one is at Chandigarh, one is at Calcutta, one is at Raipur. So these frontiers are under command of these theater headquarters commanded by additional DGs. And of course, all these organizations have a force headquarter, which is the policy making headquarter for their respective organizations. Now, as regards me and my experience in the organization, I joined the Border Security Force as a direct entry officer in 1977, when the organization was only about 77 units big. And as a result, the promotional avenues were very little. And as happens, maybe people are much more knowledgeable nowadays. We were not at that point of time. And it's only after joining the organization we realized that chances of progression are not so good in the organization at that point of time. But then I have risen to the rank of additional DG, which means that promotional avenues for the cadre officers have enhanced along the way. So 1977, having joined BSF, we underwent 1 year training. I think this is the norm in other organizations also. About 1 year, 54 weeks training we underwent. Passed out in 78, joined a unit on LC, line of control. And having the force being newly raised, the army culture was in prevalence at that point of time. And on LC, the BSF is under army control. So all operations, all deployment was on the army pattern. I was a company commander. Briefly, as a stopgap arrangement, I would be given the responsibilities of adjutant or quartermaster in the battalion, which are the positions in battalion headquarters. Adjutant is supposed to be, in Hindi they call it Dandpal. Dandpal, the adjutant is perhaps the most important staff officer to the commandant, who has to organize all works related to establishment, discipline, personnel management in the unit. And then the quartermaster is other staff officer who is responsible for ensuring, let's say, logistics in the unit. So all supplies, rations, clothing, equipment, arms, ammunition has to be coordinated by the quartermaster. Having spent 3 years at LC, in the meanwhile, I had done a couple of courses. I had done platoon weapons at Indore, which is a weapons training institution of ours, and a commando course at our alma mater, the BSF Academy, Gwalior. And I had also undergone physical training course at Training Center and School Hazaribagh, which is in Jharkhand, another premier training institution, the institution which I later commanded as DIG. So having undergone PT course there, I was appointed as an instructor of PT, where I spent about 3 years as an instructor. And besides being the instructor, I did various other duties, like I was accounts officer of the institution for some time. I was also in charge of a recruits training company for some time. So I kept on getting various kind of experience during this period. Having spent about 3 years at Hazaribagh, there was, as we all know, there was a problem of militancy in Punjab. And I was assigned to be part of a commando team of the border security force, which later operated in Operation Blue Star to clear the अब तो वहाँ वो नहीं है. Clear a hotel called Hotel Temple View as a preliminary operations to the bigger operation launched by the Indian Army. So our commando unit consisting of about three teams of 18 persons each, 15 persons rather, 15 persons each, raided this hotel before the army went in and sort of carried out its operation in and around the Golden Temple. So this was as an assistant commandant. I took almost 9 years to become a deputy commandant. And after this commando assignment, I was briefly with the SPG for 1 year or so. SPG, which is the Prime Minister's security. We were the persons who actually were the foundation, about 100 of us who were the nucleus around which the SPG was raised. So that was for 1 year or so, and I got promoted, came back to the organization. As deputy commandant, I worked as what is now known as deputy commandant vigilance at the force headquarters. My responsibilities included ensuring, detecting corruption cases and also detecting, or rather carrying out counterintelligence activities, which means that I was involved in detecting people who may have been compromised and who may be passing on information to organizations not too friendly with our organization. So spent 4 years, got appointed as an instructor at BSF Academy as a deputy commandant, conducted various courses there, training is mandatory courses. And then again, as on promotion, I was posted as second in command of a unit on LC. I was deep down there in Kupwara, which was very hot, on the ceasefire line, or rather line of control that is called, not involved in internal security. I was on the line of control. So that was as a 2IC. Promoted, came to Samba as this was the time when the Samba, the 200 kilometers of borders with Pakistan in Jammu area, became extremely hot. Till then it was quiet. It became very hot because Pakistan decided to challenge the legality of this border. They started saying that this is not international border. This is a disputed border, as the LC is. Whereas in actuality and as per our stand, it is the international border. So a lot of firing. My unit had to carry out the border management duties in face of lot of resistance from the counterpart Pakistan Rangers and their army. 4 years almost of command at Samba, took my unit to northeast at Bongaigaon and at Chudachandpur, commanded for another year, came back to BSF Academy to command our tactical wing, which is responsible to carry out mandatory courses for senior officers of the force, and tried my best to modify, or rather improve upon the training methodology and the contents of the training that was carried out. Got promoted, got posted as DIG operations at Tripura. 2 years there, got involved in preparing papers on adverse possessions, which is a technical issue, not really possible to explain it at this point of time. So got involved in sort of sorting out several papers and bringing clarity to our position vis-a-vis the position of Bangladesh. In the rank of DIG, again, I went on to command our subsidiary training center at Chudachandpur in Manipur. 1 year plus commanded there. Came to Punjab as DIG provisioning and later as PSO, that is Principal Staff Officer of the Frontier. And then, as I said, came to Hazaribagh to command the center, where I had, as a PT instructor, I was the junior most youngest, and as the commandant of the center, I was the senior most, perhaps not the oldest, but yes, one of the older people. So that was a, and then got promoted, commanded North Bengal Frontier for 3 years. My view, it was an eventful tenure, and tried to improve upon the border guarding systems, tried to change the methodology from manpower intensive to use of technology and other techniques in border guarding, and then finally got promoted as and came to Force Headquarters as ADG Logistics, from where I demitted office in 2015. So to sum up, I have had various kinds of experience during my service, and I can say that I have lived a whole life in my career. So this is in brief about me and my career. You can ask other questions.
You have come forward very vocally for the rights of CAPFs, and many others also have. But many of our own cadre officers leave CAPFs to their plight, maybe due to the fear of retribution. So what motivates you, and what message would you like to give to retired CAPF cadre officers and IPS officers served in the CAPFs?
Tricky question.